The sun had just begun to rise over the red horizon of planet Nivara 7, casting long shadows across the outpost's metallic structures. The wind carried a faint smell of minerals and dust. And the colony, small but well-organized, was slowly coming to life. Robots whirred quietly in the distance, tending to equipment and storage pods, while human colonists prepared for another day of research and exploration. Elias stood alone on the observation deck, staring at the barren landscape. He was not one for crowds or loud conversations. Unlike some of his colleagues, he preferred silence, a chance to think. Today, however, his thoughts were filled with a mix of curiosity and unease. The colony had received a new assignment, a creature captured from the planet's wild regions, and he had been chosen to care for it. He had heard the descriptions already. A dangerous, unpredictable species, feared by even the most seasoned explorers. The creature had been chained for transport, restrained and confined for safety. But Elias, unlike most, did not feel fear. Something in his gut told him there was more to this creature than the warnings suggested. The transport shuttle landed with a low hum, sending up small clouds of reddish dust. 2 security officers led the chained creature down the ramp. Elias took a step forward, squinting at the strange form. It was taller than a human, with limbs that seemed both strong and graceful. Its eyes glimmered with intelligence, almost unnervingly so. Its chains clinked against the metal as it moved, but it did so with a quiet dignity, almost as if it understood it was being watched. "Careful," one of the officers said. "It doesn't react well to sudden movements." Elias nodded. "I'll handle it," he replied calmly. His heart beat faster, but not with fear, more with anticipation. The creature was brought into the containment room, a spacious area reinforced with alloy panels and monitoring equipment. The officers attached the last chain to a heavy anchor and stepped back. Elias entered, moving slowly, deliberately. "Hello," he said softly. "I'm Elias." He extended a hand, unsure if the creature would respond. The creature tilted its head, studying him with those sharp, intelligent eyes. It made no sound, but its body language was cautious, not aggressive. Elias felt a strange connection already, a silent acknowledgement of presence. Over the next few hours, he observed the creature from a safe distance. It paced the room, testing the chains and sniffing the air. It moved like a predator, but there was no sign of malice. Elias realized that every move it made was thoughtful, almost calculated. By the time evening came, he had decided that he would try a new approach. He removed his gloves, sat on the floor, and began speaking softly. Not as a researcher to a specimen, but as one being to another. "I know it's strange here," he said gently, "but you don't have to be afraid of me. I won't hurt you." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, the creature inched closer, its massive head lowering to meet his gaze. Its breath was warm and surprisingly soft. Elias reached out a hand, stopping just short of contact. He could feel its awareness, its curiosity, like a living pulse. He stayed there for hours, talking quietly, watching the creature. When night finally fell, and the red sun dipped below the horizon, he noticed it had not tried to escape or attack. Instead, it had sat down on the floor, eyes fixed on him. Elias felt a wave of relief and wonder. That night, he slept lightly, knowing the creature was still awake in the room beside him. Every sound in the outpost seemed amplified: the hum of the ventilation system, the soft thud of distant machinery, but he felt a strange sense of companionship. When he stirred, half asleep, he thought he saw the creature's eyes watching him. Not with hunger, not with anger, but with curiosity. The next morning, Elias began his daily routine of feeding and monitoring the creature. He learned quickly that it responded to routine, to gestures, to tone of voice. It was intelligent, perhaps far more than anyone had expected. He found himself smiling for the first time in weeks, when it mimicked a gesture he had made, almost like it understood him. Other colonists noticed the change too. Dr. Malin, a senior scientist, came to observe. "You're spending too much time with it," she said cautiously. "It's still a dangerous species. We need data, not bonding." Elias shook his head. "You don't understand. It's not just an animal. It's aware. It watches. It thinks. It feels. There's a connection here if we just approach it right." Malin frowned but left without arguing. Elias knew that building trust would take time, and he was willing to wait. He had a feeling that this creature could teach humans more than any data report ever could. Days passed, and the bond grew. The creature would follow him quietly when he walked through the halls, eyes tracking his movements. It responded to his gestures, seemed to sense his moods, and even appeared to guard him from other colonists who approached too abruptly. Then, one evening, something unusual happened. A loud alarm blared through the outpost, signaling a minor equipment malfunction in the power core. Colonists rushed past Elias, leaving him and the creature alone in the dimly lit hallway. He froze, unsure whether to move. The creature stepped forward, placing itself between him and the open hallway, low growls vibrating from its chest. Elias realized, with a mix of awe and pride, that it was protecting him. Not from orders, not from training, but from instinct or perhaps choice. That night, Elias slept more soundly than he had in weeks. The creature curled near the door of his quarters, eyes reflecting the soft light of the outpost. For the first time, he felt truly seen, not as a researcher, not as a human among humans, but as someone who mattered to another being. The bond deepened. Elias began experimenting carefully, showing the creature simple objects, tools, even small puzzles. Each time, it learned quickly, sometimes faster than he expected. It solved problems, observed patterns, and seemed to anticipate outcomes. He realized that its chains were not just physical restraints, they were chains of misunderstanding. And perhaps, one day, he would find a way to remove them altogether. Yet the colony still feared it. Whispers traveled through the halls. Too intelligent. Unpredictable. What if it attacks? But Elias ignored the rumors. He understood what they did not. Intelligence was not always dangerous, and loyalty could emerge from trust, not fear. On the 7th night, as the twin moons of Navara 7 rose in the sky, Elias sat quietly in his quarters. The creature had followed him again. Settling on the floor beside the bed, he reached out a hand. This time, it nudged his palm gently, almost as if saying, "I trust you." Elias's heart swelled. He whispered, "And I trust you." The silence of the night wrapped around them. A quiet promise of understanding, of companionship. The colony outside slept unaware, but inside that small room, a new chapter of coexistence had begun, and Elias knew, deep down, that their journey was only starting. The world might fear the creature in chains, but together, they were discovering something far greater. The bond between human and alien. A bond that could reshape humanity's understanding of the universe. As the first light of dawn crept through the window, Elias and the creature remained still, two beings learning to trust one another. Outside, the harsh landscape of Navara 7 awaited, full of danger and uncertainty. But inside, in that quiet room, hope had been forged, strong and unbreakable. The creature in chains had become something more. And Elias, for the first time in his life, felt he was not alone. The following days brought a strange sense of calm to the outpost. Elias continued his work with the creature, whom he had begun calling Naira, a name inspired by the twin moons of Navara 7. Naira had grown more confident around him, moving freely within the containment area, and even following him along the corridors when he walked. Despite the bond forming, the colony remained tense. Most of the colonists avoided the creature, whispering about its strength and intelligence. They had not seen what Elias saw. Naira's gentleness, her understanding, her ability to notice details others missed. She was far from the dangerous beast they imagined. One afternoon, while Elias was calibrating sensors near the edge of the outpost, Naira's sharp gaze caught something in the distance, a flash of movement near the cliffs. Elias squinted, trying to make out what it was. A small, native predator, larger than any creature he had seen before, was stalking the perimeter. Elias froze. He knew the predator could be deadly. It had claws designed to tear through metal, fangs that could crush bone. He reached for the communicator, but Naira's low growl stopped him. Before he could react further, the predator lunged toward the outpost. Alarm sirens began to wail, and the colonists rushed to secure the perimeter. Chaos erupted, with people shouting and scrambling for safety. Yet Naira remained calm, positioning herself between Elias and the predator. Elias watched in awe as she moved. Her body was a blur of grace and power, deflecting attacks from the predator with swift movements. The chains that had once bound her now seemed insignificant. She leapt and dodged, using strength and strategy, protecting Elias with instincts no human had taught her. The predator finally retreated, confused and beaten by Naira's tactics. Elias's heart pounded, not from fear, but from amazement. Naira turned to him, eyes glowing with intelligence, as if to say, "I have you." From that moment, Elias knew that the colony had underestimated her. Not only was she intelligent, but she also had an understanding of protection and loyalty that surpassed human expectation. He began documenting her behavior, careful not to disturb her. Every observation revealed something new. Problem-solving, planning, emotional awareness. Naira was more than a creature in chains. She was an ally, a partner. That evening, Elias returned to his quarters, exhausted but exhilarated. Naira followed, curling up near the door. He sat on the edge of the bed, thinking about the incident. The colony might never accept Naira the way he did, but he understood her, and he realized that this understanding could change everything. A few days later, Dr. Malin returned, her expression cautious but curious. "You're spending more time with her than the other colonists combined," she said. "And she's behaving differently. We may need to reconsider our approach." Elias smiled faintly. "She's not just a specimen. She's aware, she's learning, and she protects those she trusts. That's more valuable than any data sheet." Malin studied Naira for a long moment. The creature sat calmly, eyes fixed on Elias, as if she knew the conversation was about her. "I've never seen anything like it," Malin admitted. "Perhaps we've been wrong to chain her at all." Elias nodded. He had suspected it for some time. Chains could hold a body, but they could never bind intelligence or loyalty. The bond between Elias and Naira deepened in subtle ways. She began mimicking his gestures, learning to respond to his commands without force. If he raised a hand, she paused. If he whispered a word, she listened. At night, she would sit by the door of his quarters, a silent guardian, alert to any movement. Then, one night, an unexpected event tested their trust. A minor seismic tremor shook the outpost, causing alarms to blare. Equipment toppled, and lights flickered. Elias grabbed his communicator, calling out to the colonists. But before he could reach the control room, a loud crash echoed from the storage area. Elias rushed toward the sound. Naira followed silently, her senses sharper than any human's. When he arrived, he saw the source. Another native predator, larger and more ferocious than the one before, had somehow entered the outpost. It had broken through a weak point in the containment perimeter. Panic surged through Elias. The predator advanced, its eyes fixed on him, but Naira stepped forward, growling low and fierce. She moved with precision, intercepting the predator with a series of swift, calculated maneuvers. Elias could only watch, stunned by her courage and intelligence. The fight was brief but intense. Naira's instincts guided her, protecting Elias while minimizing harm. The predator finally fled, limping, beaten but alive. Elias knelt, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You saved me," he whispered. "And you didn't even think twice." Naira nudged his hand gently, as if acknowledging his words. In that moment, Elias realized the depth of their bond. It was no longer about caretaker and creature, it was about partnership, mutual understanding, and trust that transcended species. The colony, once skeptical, began to take notice. Whispers turned to cautious admiration. Some colonists started observing Naira from a safe distance, noting her intelligence, her ability to protect, and her responsiveness to Elias. Slowly, fear began to shift into respect. Elias saw an opportunity to demonstrate that humans and native species could coexist and even cooperate. He began planning small exercises, guiding Naira through tasks that required teamwork and problem-solving. Together, they tested sensor networks, retrieved tools from difficult locations, and navigated obstacles in the outpost. Each success strengthened their bond and proved the potential of human-alien collaboration. One afternoon, Elias discovered a new facet of Naira's intelligence. While inspecting the outpost's energy grid, he noticed a minor malfunction that could escalate into a larger problem. Naira immediately recognized the issue, guiding him to the exact location. She nudged levers, pressed buttons, and assisted in stabilizing the system, demonstrating a comprehension of complex mechanisms far beyond instinct. "See?" Elias said to Malin, who had come to observe. "She's not just smart, she learns, adapts, and even helps us solve problems." Malin shook her head in amazement. "I've never seen anything like it. Perhaps we've underestimated native species. And perhaps humanity can learn from them as much as they learn from us." End quote. The realization weighed on Elias. Humans had long believed themselves superior, relying on technology, knowledge, and power. But Naira reminded him that intelligence and loyalty were not exclusive to humans. Cooperation, trust, and understanding could bridge the gap between species, and in doing so, redefine what it meant to be human. That night, the twin moons rose, casting a soft glow over the outpost. Naira sat silently outside Elias's quarters, eyes reflecting the moonlight. He approached slowly, reaching out to place a hand on her shoulder. She leaned into him slightly, a gesture of trust and companionship. "You're amazing," he whispered. "I don't know what I would do without you." Naira responded with a gentle rumble, a sound that Elias had come to understand as contentment. In those quiet moments, he realized that the creature in chains had already changed his life, and that their bond was only the beginning. However, their peaceful nights were soon interrupted. The sensors picked up unusual movement beyond the outpost perimeter, an organized pattern that suggested something more intelligent than the native predators they had encountered. Elias and Malin watched the readings, concern growing. Whatever it was deliberate, calculating, and approaching the colony. Elias turned to Naira. "It looks like we won't have long before we find out what's coming. Are you ready?" Naira's eyes glimmered in response, and she stepped closer, standing tall and alert. Elias felt a surge of confidence. Together, they could face whatever danger approached. The bond that had begun in quiet observation and trust had now become a force capable of confronting the unknown. Humans had always relied on technology and strategy, but here, on Nivara 7, Elias realized that empathy, understanding, and partnership with Naira could be just as powerful, perhaps even more. As the first warning lights flashed across the outpost, Elias and Naira prepared for the night ahead. Outside, the red plains of Nivara 7 stretched endlessly, hiding dangers yet unseen. But inside the small quarters, the bond between human and alien grew stronger. A silent promise that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. And as the shadows deepened and the moons rose higher, Elias understood that this was no longer a story of captivity and fear. It was a story of trust, courage, and the extraordinary potential that could emerge when humanity looked beyond its own limitations and embraced the unknown with open eyes and an open heart. The night was darker than usual on Nivara 7, with the twin moons hidden behind thick clouds. Elias stood on the observation deck, scanning the horizon with binoculars. The sensors had detected multiple moving forms outside the outpost perimeter, organized, coordinated, and unlike anything they had faced before. His heart pounded, but he felt a strange calm. He was not alone. Naira was beside him, her massive form poised and alert. "This could be serious," Elias said softly. "Whatever it is, it's not random." Naira's eyes glimmered in the faint light. She growled low, a warning to any approaching threat. Elias reached out and patted her shoulder. He trusted her instincts, and he knew that together they could face whatever was coming. The movement grew closer. From the shadows, a group of alien predators emerged, far larger and more intelligent than any Naira had encountered before. Their eyes glowed faintly in the darkness, and their movements were calculated, almost strategic. Elias realized that these were not mindless animals, they were hunters, organized and patient, testing the defenses of the colony. "Naira," he whispered, "we have to protect the colony. Can you do it?" The creature responded with a low, confident rumble, her stance unwavering. Elias knew she understood him perfectly. She was not just a protector, she was a partner, a strategist, and a force that could change the course of the night. The alarms blared, waking the entire colony. Colonists scrambled to arm themselves and secure vital areas. Elias ran through the halls, giving instructions while Naira moved alongside him, anticipating threats before they appeared. Together, they became a seamless team, humans and alien working in sync. The first predator leapt from the shadows, aiming for one of the perimeter generators. Naira reacted instantly, intercepting the creature with incredible speed. She twisted, dodged, and used her strength to push it away without harming it excessively. Elias, meanwhile, coordinated the colony's defenses, guiding teams to secure vulnerable points. The predators were clever, but so was Naira. She seemed to anticipate their movements, positioning herself in ways that blocked their attacks and protected humans. She would growl, charge, and even use her weight to topple obstacles, all with precision and purpose. Elias marveled at her intelligence and strategy. No human could have coordinated a defense as quickly and efficiently. The battle continued for hours. Some colonists panicked, but Elias stayed calm, issuing orders and directing efforts to minimize damage. He began to notice a pattern in the predators' movements, realizing that Naira's instincts were helping him understand their behavior. Together, they were learning from each other, combining human strategy with alien intuition. At one point, a predator breached the inner compound, heading straight for the main control room. Elias ran toward it, but Naira was faster. She blocked the predator, forcing it back and giving Elias enough time to lock the doors and secure the control systems. "You're incredible," he whispered to her, brushing his hand against her side. She responded with a soft rumble, acknowledging his words without distraction from the fight. Elias realized that their bond had evolved. It was no longer just trust, it was mutual respect, understanding, and communication without words. By midnight, the predators were weakening. Naira had outmaneuvered most of them, using a combination of strength, agility, and intelligence. The remaining creatures retreated into the darkness, defeated but alive. Elias and the colony had survived, thanks in large part to the creature they had once feared. As the first light of dawn broke across the red plains, Elias walked among the colonists, who were beginning to assess the damage. Whispers of admiration and disbelief followed him. For the first time, many of them truly saw Naira not as a dangerous alien, but as a guardian and ally. Dr. Malin approached Elias, her expression a mix of awe and humility. "I underestimated her. And maybe I underestimated what humans can accomplish when we trust others, even those who are different." Elias nodded. "We learned something important. Intelligence and loyalty aren't limited to humans, and courage can come from unexpected places." The colony began to adapt to this new understanding. Naira was no longer kept in chains, except when necessary for safety. She moved freely among the humans, watching over them, guiding them, and even assisting in construction and repairs. Her presence transformed the outpost. Humans were learning to cooperate with her, and she was learning to work alongside them. Elias and Nira became a symbol for the colony. Children, curious and fearless, would approach her with care and respect. Workers relied on her guidance in the field, and scientists studied her intelligence with fascination. The bond between human and alien inspired everyone to think differently about the world around them. But Elias knew the story was not just about Nira. It was about what humanity could become when it embraced empathy, cooperation, and courage. Technology and tools were important, but understanding and trust could achieve far more. He thought about how humans had always sought to dominate what they did not understand, and how easily that fear could turn into conflict. But Nira had shown him that respect could turn fear into partnership. Months passed, and the colony thrived. Elias continued his research, focusing not just on Nira, but on the possibilities of cooperation with other native species. Together, they discovered new ways to cultivate resources, explore the dangerous terrain, and protect themselves from unknown threats. Nira remained by Elias's side at night, her watchful eyes scanning the horizon while he rested. They had grown to understand each other completely. Elias knew what Nira needed, and she anticipated his actions and emotions with remarkable precision. Their bond had transcended species. It had become a partnership built on trust, respect, and shared purpose. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the outpost, Elias and Nira stood on the observation deck, looking out across the red plains. The winds carried a soft hum, the distant mountains casting long shadows. Elias placed a hand on Nira's shoulder. "You've changed everything," he said softly. "Not just for me, but for all of humanity here. Maybe we can learn to be better. Because of you." Nira leaned slightly into his touch, her eyes glowing with intelligence and awareness. Elias smiled, realizing that their bond had created something extraordinary. A bridge between worlds, a testament to the potential of cooperation, and proof that humanity could rise beyond fear and misunderstanding. Suddenly, the sensors picked up a new movement, not hostile, but curious. A small group of native creatures, previously unknown to the colony, had approached the perimeter. Elias and Nira observed quietly, ready to interact. Instead of fear, Elias felt hope. The encounter would be peaceful, guided by understanding, not conflict. Nira stepped forward, calmly and confidently, signaling to Elias and the colonists that trust could be extended to these new visitors. Humans hesitated at first, but Elias gave a small nod, and the first cautious steps of cooperation began. For the first time, the colony saw a vision of the future. Humans and native species working together, learning from each other, and exploring the mysteries of Nivara 7 not as conquerors, but as partners. The story of Nira and Elias had shown them that intelligence, courage, and loyalty were not limited by species. As the sun rose, painting the sky with shades of red and gold, Elias stood beside Nira on the observation deck. The colony below was awake, buzzing with activity and cautious optimism. Elias felt a deep sense of pride, not just in what they had survived, but in what they had become. Nira, the creature once chained and feared, had become a symbol of hope and cooperation. She had watched over him at night, protected him in battle, and now led the colony toward a future where humans and aliens could coexist peacefully. Elias took a deep breath, the wind brushing against his face. "We've only just begun," he said quietly. Nira's soft rumble answered him, a sound that meant everything without words. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, and together, they would redefine what it meant to be human. In the vast, red plains of Nivara 7, under the twin moons and endless stars, humanity had found an ally, and through that bond, a new path forward. Trust, courage, and understanding had turned fear into friendship. And the story of Elias and Nira became a legend, a testament to the extraordinary potential that lay within humanity, waiting to be awakened when it dared to see beyond itself. And as night fell once more, Elias and Nira remained on the observation deck, two beings united by trust, ready to watch over each other and their colony, no matter what the universe might bring.